It just makes me understand my clients' journeys, not just with fertility, but, we work a lot with autoimmune and other hormonal issues and gut issues, and they can be extremely hard. So when you go through this journey yourself, it just brings you to a different level of compassion and just life lessons, right?
Yeah.
It gets you really understand it personally. You can't learn that in a textbook.
Welcome to the House of JerMar podcast, where wellness starts within. The House of JerMar is a lifestyle brand empowering women to live all in interior design and personal wellness. We are a destination for women ready to reimagine what is possible in their homes and lives and then create it. We are honored to have you join us on our mission to empower 1 million women to live all in. I am your host, Jeanne, and I invite you to become inspired by this week's guest. Welcome to the House of JerMar podcast, where wellness starts within. I'm your host, Jeanne Collins, and this week's guest is so inspiring. We are going to talk about holistic wellness. So this week's guest is Christine Beal-Dunst. I've worked with Christine. She's the CEO and co-founder of EMBODY Wellness. They are a company, just to give you a little bit of background, they're a company of certified integrative nutritionists, wellness, lifestyle coaches, and experts who partner one-on-one with people. They also do work with companies and corporations, and their whole approach is all about finding your path to wellness, looking at you in totality. It's not just about nutrition. Christine has the most impressive bio of education, which I will link in the notes. So we're not going to get into all of it, but we will discuss some of it. So everybody, welcome Christine to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeanne. It's so exciting to be with you.
I love to have you because your approach, so first of all, just for everybody who knows, I have worked with Christine. So I am a client of hers. I started working with her in January of this year. I was 53 years old and I had gained 6 pounds in 6 weeks and I couldn't lose it. Now, 6 pounds might not sound like a lot, but when you're a relatively small frame like I am, it was a lot. And I tried not drinking for a few weeks. Nothing was working. And I eat very healthy, very holistically. I was eating vegetarian and mostly vegan at the time. And I'd been following Christine on Instagram for a while and was really impressed with her approach and also her focus towards people like me, women like me in my age that are struggling with all these hormonal changes. And she has so much knowledge on so many subjects. So I was really drawn to that. And I was drawn to also her approach on mindset as well. And so I reached out to Christine. We had a session and I hired her. And I have never felt better, everybody, than I did. And we'll talk about my journey as we talk. We'll talk about my journey. But just that is how I know you. And I have learned so much from you. And I don't know how you keep all this knowledge in your brain. It's mind blowing to me.
Oh, well, it was such a pleasure to work with you. I adore working with women who are so connected to themselves and who are really motivated to make changes, right? Like that's a huge part of this. So it's exciting to hear all that, Jeanne. I'm really happy for you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it does help. Motivation helps. Yes, for sure. All right. So I want to get started by sharing with the audience how did you get into this field? What did you do before you were the CEO and co-founder of EMBODY? And what did you do? And how did EMBODY form? Where did that come from?
Yeah. So I feel like I have many lives, right? So I have a background somewhat similar to yours, Jeanne, where I was in corporate for almost 20 years before I went back to nutrition school. And I was all in the healthcare space. So my big passion in life was to work and help the healthcare system transform. So I worked for companies such as PricewaterhouseCoopers, Accenture, Pfizer, large integrated delivery systems. So I worked for pretty large organizations throughout the years. And there were kind of three main journeys, if you will, that really got me to this point. And like so many people, they were all healing journeys of what happened to me on a personal level that really kind of shifted my whole philosophy and outlook and really where I am now. So the first one was when I was in my early 20s. So I was from Pennsylvania. I I'm very small town in PA. I went to New York City, really trying to make it in New York City, like many people. And early on in my 20s, I had this real sense of, having to make it, this striving for this perfection illusion that just doesn't exist. And when I was in grad school at NYU for health policy and business, I really developed a very unhealthy relationship with myself and my eating. And I used food absolutely as a control mechanism versus love in every sense of the word. And it was really not well for myself. And I knew that I really needed help. So I reached out to a therapist. I worked with a therapist for many years. She was a godsend in my life. But I also, at that point in my early 20s, found my yoga practice. So I found my yoga studios in New York City, Jiva Mukti and Shivananda in my early 20s. And it really shifted my whole existence of myself, my relationship with myself. I absolutely needed the therapist. But having this practice to like show me what my potential could be was a really big deal. And part of the practice, like one of the 8 limbs of yoga, is around nonviolence. And when I really got in this huge spiritual journey in my early 20s, this kind of concept of nonviolence, I had to bring it off the mat. That, how I was speaking to myself, kind of all this harshness with striving and trying to get ahead, it just wasn't serving me. So I really started developing this beautiful relationship with myself in my 20s, huge journey. So that was like big event number one. Then fast forward into my 30s, still in New York City, still striving to be all of these different levels and corporations. And I was burning it from every angle. So I was going out way too much, as we do in our early 30s or late 20s. I was going out too much. I was I had a good relationship with myself and my body, but I didn't know how to take care of myself really. Like I thought I was eating healthy, right? Like we all remember the fat-free days and all of these things that we thought were healthy, and they really were not. And I was just burning it from many angles, working 80-hour weeks and just not understanding the impact that the stress and the lack of nutrition truly had on my body. And I developed adrenal fatigue. I really hit rock bottom when I was diagnosed with Bell's palsy, which was a terrifying thing in I think it was early 30s. And it was kind of this wake up call to be like, wow, is this stress really impacting me? But I think the biggest wake up call was, I was early 30s, all of these pieces, and I was trying to get pregnant. So
I knew that was coming in here somewhere. I was like, I have a feeling when you're stressed and not healthy, it doesn't happen.
no, and working 24/7. So, but I thought in my head, like, oh, is this going to happen? Everything else happens. I'm ready. It's going to happen. And I didn't have a problem getting pregnant, but I had a problem staying pregnant. So I had multiple miscarriages, and it it was devastating for my husband and for myself. And then, going to these extremely high-end doctors in New York City who completely discounted that it could be stress when I was clearly diagnosed as adrenal fatigue. There was such a huge disconnect that I finally started connecting my lifestyle and what part I had in this. Even though I was a yogi, I really didn't meditate a lot at the time. I didn't breathe. I was more of like my physical practice was my yoga practice, which is very different than it is now. So that was a huge life changing event. I started getting everything I can get about my wellness. I started really getting deeper. And then the third major event that really kind of was throughout this whole period was my sister. And I really haven't talked about this as much, but many people have seen it who follow us on social media. But my sister had a horrible, debilitating eating disorder for probably my whole adult life. And it really started getting really severe in the last 10 years of her life. And it was definitely something that shifted me to think that, if I went back to school, if I learned all this stuff to heal myself, why couldn't we help her? And so I had this whole piece that I really wanted to help her and to help my family. And as I'm healing on my own journey, so all of those pieces are why I jumped into nutrition school. And literally, it was like I was jumping off a cliff because I was leaving. That's beautiful. Many people were like, "Are you crazy? Right? You have this master's degree. You're a director at Pfizer. Like, what are you doing?" And I don't think people understand like your internal struggle, what you've been through to get you to these points. So,
Right. And the courage that it takes to take that jump.
yeah, huge, huge.
Yeah,
And you get it very well. Like it takes a lot because there's a lot of people who will think you're crazy for stepping. I mean, even my family was like, "Wait, you've worked your whole career and you want to do something totally different." And yeah, it took a lot of courage.
it does. Now, like, and it's hard. School is really hard. So,
Yeah.
what drove you to keep going?
Yeah, I think it's just I started to see the differences in my own body. Like I started changing profoundly. My pregnancy journey from my daughter to my son was like literally night and day. Like zero problem getting. We couldn't even believe it. We're like, oh, we're gonna just try, but it'll probably take us all this time. Nope, it happened the first time. So yeah, it was a profound change in my life, and not working after my daughter was born. I was so used to working 24/7, and my whole identity was my profession, as I remember you said too, and that's not what I want in my existence and who I am in this world. It's like no, not at all. So I think what kept going is I saw the difference. Like I physically, mentally, spiritually, and my body was well enough to produce this beautiful human with zero problems. It was like an organic process that I'm so fortunate that I got to experience the second time around. And I'm honestly like fortunate I got to experience the first piece because it just makes me so understand my clients' journeys, not just with fertility, but we work a lot with autoimmune and other hormonal issues and gut issues, and they could be extremely hard. So when you go through this journey yourself, it just brings you to a different level of compassion and just life lessons, right? It
Yeah,
gets you really understand it personally. You can't learn that in a textbook, right? You
no,
can't learn all the frustrations of going to a million doctors and um the heartache of going through our system sometimes. So that's what really kept me going. And I really at the time too, right before we were contemplating going back to school, I also was working with a health coach at the time, and it was life changing for me. And I couldn't believe that we worked on all of these different aspects of my life. I almost felt like she was my life coach, she was really she was everything. And she was also my yoga teacher, which
oh,
ironically, she was to this day, she's a very influential person in my life. So the other thing that kept me going is I wanted to work with women and help them transform their lives and to show them that it's possible. That was a big deal of why we started Embody as well.
and we said so many things that are so impactful. But I think something that I do want to point out that's really important is sometimes when people are afraid to make a shift, a career shift, because they feel they don't have experience. And I think as women, especially as we get older, we don't give ourselves enough credit for the life experience that we have and the value that can bring to giving to somebody else. Because to your point, There are
Yeah.
textbooks. We can all go to school. There are textbooks, but there is so
Yeah.
much value in the life experience that we have on different subjects that I've interviewed so many different coaches on so many levels. And one of the things that makes each one of those coaches unique is their life experience, because that's what they bring to their clients that no one else can bring, is that experience.
I can't reiterate how important that is. It's almost like I seek that out when I hire a Pilates coach or I hire a yogi. Like I want to have somebody who is experienced in their life with different things that I'm going through as well. I think it's just this connection that you cannot learn. So
I
you
agree.
just can't. And even in corporate, when I was working, I remember having so much imposter syndrome because everyone I worked with went to Harvard or all of these Ivy League, and I only went to NYU, and like, which was a beautiful school that I should be very proud
Of
of. But
course.
I remember, even going through all of that in my corporate career as well. And the fact is, like, it is what you bring to it. It's not necessarily everything else.
It is. It is. Well, and I also think your corporate background helps you from a business perspective. I know it helps me, and I notice it in your services because you have so much of the organization and the business mindset behind your wellness and how you approach your business.
Yeah.
And I think that shines through, that you do have that experience, and that also makes you unique than just a
Yes.
nutritionist who's just a doctor. And you can relate to your clients too, because I think so many of your clients, as are mine out here, are working executives. We were them. We were them.
Totally. We were exactly them, but I think
Yeah.
that's such a unique vantage point. Like I know what it's like to walk 100 stairs on the F train in New York City every day with a million bags and trying to think of my lunch. So
Right.
I mean, it gives you once again this other perspective, but also it does influence how we work with clients. Like I'm meticulous with my notes and our accountability structure and how kind of the structure we put around our programs and how we follow up. I do think of it as, you want beautiful notes. Like you want things to be put together seamlessly and easy for clients, that it's not a pain, right? Or you don't want to be like, oh, I was at this meeting with Christine and I forgot what brand she's recommending. So yeah, we're very meticulous with our structure, our accountability approach, even our notes. But yeah, as far as like a business though, it's interesting because you would be working on these multi-million dollar projects and stuff like this. And even though this is such a different scale, it's harder when you're marketing yourself versus marketing a business. So it
Of
is a
course.
whole nother level of learning. Of course, you can take everything from a corporate and bring it down to this, but it's a lot of learning still.
It is.
Yeah, and social media. I've never done social media before this company, so yes, that was a lot of learning as well.
Which your social media is stunning, by the way. And so,
Thank you so
and
much.
educational and personal and vulnerable. Your social media is amazing. I'm going to link it to make sure everyone follows you.
No, thank you so much. Yeah, it was interesting because we did all of that on our own. And I do believe it's like the people I really love to follow, it's the authenticity, right? Like
Yeah.
you can tell those who they're posting because it comes from their heart. They're
Yeah.
posting because they truly want to help people. You can sense that energy.
Yeah.
And that was really important to us, that it felt authentic. Like it's literally what I'm eating. It's not all these staged things. It's literally like, hey guys, this is my husband, this is my kids, this is what I'm feeding them. And it really grew out of that organic space with us.
Which is so great, really, because it's inspiring. You're doing what you say. You are living the life that you work and preach and try to help people live, which is so important. How did embody come to be? Because I love the word embody, and you have, I'm going to read it here at the end of you have embody wellness, embody change, embody your best self. How did embody come to be?
Yeah. So my business partner and her name's Stephanie, she and I met in nutrition school. So she was just like me, like meaning corporate executive, really stressed and burned out. And she worked at Goldman Sachs. And so we had very similar kind of backgrounds. And we wanted to, like the second she and I met, we were just like, oh, we're going to work together. Like we just kind of knew it. And she asked me to be her health coach as we were doing all of our practice sessions. And we just really connected with a shared vision that there must be a better way for corporate executives. Like I was Googling what I should be doing, and that's a horrible thing to feel, right? Everything was so separate. I would go to workouts, I would do a massage here and there. Everything was so disconnected. And every doctor that I've experienced at that time was very disconnected to kind of a mind, body, soul approach. So we wanted to start a company that really focused on women, focused on executives, focused on moms, everything that we were, to bring this total you approach. And it was interesting with the name EMBODY because we truly, if you looked at our mission 10 years ago that you just read, embody your best self. Like when we said, like, how do we want to change and be an impact in this world, in the wellness space? Literally, we both were like, well, we want to help people become their best self. And then it's not even become, we wanted to embody that. It's like in every cell of their body, this is who they are right now.
Right.
And nobody's perfect. I'm not in any sense of the word, but the word embodiment just felt like the sacredness. And we were actually, and then we went through a whole academic branding exercise, which was very important.
Yep.
Really trying to target who our customers were. So from an academic side, we went through quite an extensive process to come up with embody. The word, another one that was a close second was flourish. And I'm so happy we did not do it.
I am too. Embody is so much better. Oh, so much better. Yes.
It's really, when we were talking, we just kept on coming up with all these taglines of truly how we wanted to serve this world. We didn't know how. We didn't sit there and say, we have this aspiration to be health coaches and to own a company of coaches and consultants. We didn't. We came up with the concept that, that's how we want to really help clients transform.
Which is important. So you said something that is so important, that you didn't know how. And every book you read about taking risks, becoming an entrepreneur, manifesting something, putting things out to the universe, it's all about what is it that you want. Don't focus on the how or the steps that you're going to get there. Focus on what it is you want. What is your purpose? What is your mission? What makes you feel like you want to get out of bed every day? And then let the how evolve.
1,000,000%. And it's so aligned with my spiritual practice and what I believe in too. And yes, you can absolutely call it manifestation and other things. Like we had business plans that we created. Like we were very academic about it because of our backgrounds. But ultimately it was that passion of, I remember when I was working with my coach, I had the word transformation. That was always my word, even when I was 20, helping businesses transform. But I had the word transformation just as a center of what I wanted to do with my life. And here we are. So I do have a question. You are such a proponent of continual learning, and the things that you have studied and learned and know and gotten certified in is truly mind blowing for someone that is a parent, a very active parent of two children, and a CEO running a business, and takes such care and pride in your personal wellness. So my question for you is, as you've learned all these different things, so we have yoga, we have Pilates, I'm going to miss all of them. It's like you have hormone health and intuitive eating, and I'm going to mispronounce this, Ayurvedic cooking, and right? What makes you decide what you want to dig in and learn next? I let my intuition guide me dearly. I didn't have that intuition as much when I was in my early 20s, but I really have cultivated it. So when I feel like an inclination towards something and something that I'm excited about, that literally gives me like, ooh, like, yes,
Yeah.
Arabic cooking and some of these things that people are like, wow, that might not be that exciting, but it is to me. And a big piece of how I transitioned out of corporate was all of these different passions because I was not happy and getting that little spark of like, you know what, in New York City, I'm going to take this breathing class. I'm going to go to this. It like literally was like this lifeboat that helped me transition to where I am now. And I believe in continual learning to the nth degree. I think life would be extremely boring without it. And I think it's helped me tremendously with how I practice with clients. So I don't let all the fads and wellness make me read a book. I let my heart guide me to what I believe is something that I want to go deep on. And definitely working with so many clients, you want to go deeper on certain pieces. But to be honest, it was a lot of my healing journey of what I needed to do as a soul to keep on healing my pieces. And that's how I started getting really deep into some of these additional trainings. The Pilates certification, I have my mat certification. That was just one of my pieces in corporate that I'm like, I have to keep on learning. I just want to do something. I knew I wanted to do something different. So then I started just piece by piece taking all of these beautiful classes that just made me feel alive. And now, yeah, it's, you know, every walk I do, I have a podcast list and you're on that, Jeanne. I told you I've listened to two, but you're on my list. I love my list. I don't let it make me feel daunted that I don't get through everything. I don't, it's kind of, to me, the inspiration and creativity of learning. It just is part of wellness. It just really is. I mean, it could have nothing to do with wellness. It can, you know, like you playing the piano, Jeanne. I love it. Um, love it. But it can, to me, it can be really anything that sparks your heart. And I think it's a huge aspect of feeling fulfilled in life.
Finding something that lights your spark a little bit and then following that. I think I do talk about that. You know, if something piques your interest a little bit, say yes or follow it and see where it'll go. And I think a lot of times people aren't in tune enough with themselves or with their emotions to notice those sparks or notice those pauses. And that is something I found has come from meditation, journaling, inner health work, to really be aware when something sparks my interest and say, maybe I should follow that. And you never know the path that'll take you down. You never know what you might learn, who you might meet. There's so much if you're just curious and listen to those curiosities of the things that are interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't agree with that more. Yeah, to me it is part of life, you know, and I think it's kind of cool because it can happen at any age, as I know you and I talk about all the time. So that's why like even working with clients, even in their, you know, whatever age they come, if they come to me in 60s, I have my oldest client is 78 and she is like growth mindset times 100. It's just I find it inspiring when I meet people and my friends who just want to keep growing. I think it's really an amazing thing.
Which is
Yeah.
amazing. Let's talk about, I don't want to say your target audience, but let's talk about the types of women that you really strive to help and where they are. And I can talk about where I was, but let's talk about the rest of your clientele and where they are and how you customize plans to them.
Yeah. So it's interesting because over 10 years of Embody, we've shifted. We used to work with you know, we really work with women of all age groups. So, you know, from fertility to pregnancy to postpartum. But my clientele over the past few years have really shifted to those who are around my age. I'm 49 years old. I think it happens a lot because then you start to attract those who you're going through the same journey with. So I work a lot with women in their 40s all the way to my 78-year-old client who I adore. So that's really the target of who is attracted to work with us and the type of people, moms, I think I work with almost exclusively moms, but not necessarily.
Right.
And we have a lot of moms executives, a lot of executives. I also have a good portion of clients in their early 20s. So those who are still struggling with their body image. And so I definitely take on those clients for sure, because I see such tremendous potential to shift in their 20s. And I also have some men clients too. So some of my women clients, they would like me to work with their husbands. And then we also do corporate work, as you mentioned in the beginning of our discussion today. So I really adore that work. And I think it aligns so well with our background. So we do a lot of different presentations, different types of programming for corporate executives. And it doesn't have to be these huge companies. We have worked with like Google and Meredith corporations and bigger companies and hedge funds, et cetera. But we also work with smaller companies as well, which I really love that type of work as well.
It's different. It encapsulates it.
Very different. And we also do group programs. We had our first online group program in the spring, and it was so successful, and people really were excited to be part of it. I had many old past clients that wanted to join on too. So that was really exciting. We may be doing something like that in the future.
Which is good. Sometimes people need to dip their toe in before they go all in.
All in.
Right?
Yes,
Yes.
for sure.
Yes. So let's talk about just your process. When a new client comes to you, what is your overall process so someone knows what they could expect by reaching out to you?
So, like you, Jeanne, you reached out, you explained kind of what was going on with you. And the first step I do with all my clients is what's called our initial consult. And we have our clients fill out an online form. And what's great about that is it gets into obviously your food and what you're really focusing on, your goals. But it also is so much more. It is asking about your sleep. It's asking about your stress. It's asking about when you felt the best in your life and what you really want. So, and beyond, of course, it gets into the nutrition, but it helps us get into kind of these underlying factors that could be contributing to what is impeding your goals. So it's important for me to get that really detailed background before I even work full time with a client. And then I can assess if they're really wanting to change as well. If they have goals of 20 pounds or 10 pounds, or even in your case, Jeanne, 6 pounds where you were was a big deal to you. It was a huge deal to you. So it helps really to get behind what a client's really looking for. So that is the first step. And then we put together what's called an agreement with the client. And that's where we sit there and you were like, you know what, based on your goals, we're thinking this is how much time we should work together. This is maybe how many months we work together. We don't just do these one session and you're done. It's really this accountability approach. Every client's different. That's why you're not going to see XYZ package on our website, because I believe and Embody believes dearly that everybody is so unique. So we work within their budget, we work within their timeline, we work within their schedules. I have some 6 o'clock meetings in the morning because of my busy executives. So that's really our approach. And from day one, too, 10 years ago, we were doing remote as well as live. So my home office is in Weston, Connecticut, but we've been doing Zoom calls with clients all over the world. We have clients in Europe. So it's been making it very accessible for clients to achieve their goals, but in this structured approach and in this real partnership approach. I never just, here's the meal plan, go forth and prosper. No, it's just, that's never going to work for somebody, right? It's like everything is like this collaborative approach, but I also believe, and as I'm going through and working with clients, that it's empowering and it's a learning experience versus just here's the information. No, we have to understand how to apply it to that individual, and so that it's something that they will have for the rest of their lives. A big thing with working with us, I hope, as you know, Jeanne, too, is I care so much about, the months we work together, but also the 6 months after we work together, the year after we work together. So we have so much built in where we like to have touch points with our client so that they really, really sustain these results that they get.
It's a lifestyle commitment, and you have to be, I will say, just to shed some light on, what I did with you.
Yeah.
You have a daily journal, and you have to record everything you eat and how many times you go to the bathroom and how much water do you drink and when did you sleep and what are you grateful for and what are you doing, what are you committing to do for exercise, and then what do you actually do for exercise, and your challenges and what was stressful, what was hard. And I think for me, I did a lot of those things already. I already journal. So I do all that. I already exercise. However, I upped that. I got my walking pad underneath my desk, thanks to you. And there would be days where I had 20,000 steps while I would walk, and it was amazing. And I think, how often do you drink? What do you drink? And I think for me, there's a level of accountability, which was very helpful. There's a lot of positive reinforcement. We send pictures of what you're eating, and you would say, that's great. Next time, add this. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. All right, good. So there's that. There also, I think one thing that's very unique about you is the long term of it.
Yeah.
The long term of it. And I had people say, you gave up those foods for 3 months. And I was like, I did, because it took that long for my body to level out. And now that I've been doing it for so long, I don't miss them. I don't need them. I don't crave them.
Amazing.
And it wasn't hard. It didn't feel, to your point about how you got started with this, it didn't feel like I was depriving myself. You were just helping me make different choices that were more appropriate for my body at this age. When I was 10 years ago, I could eat totally differently and have a very different result. And it's like, you were so good at understanding me at this age and what my body needs, because it is not the same this year, by the way, at 53 as it was last year at 52.
No. And listen, I'm with you. I always say to all my clients, I'm right there with you. And I think you brought up such an important point with the journal, our online journal. I'm so proud of this because I really have seen it be such a transformative tool, even for clients like you, Jeanne, who have already been doing the gratitude piece, who already have been doing the self-reflection. But it does connect you in a different way, like with that intuitive eating piece, like what is really best for me. And when you take a step back every day and you're like, wow, this is really interesting. I'm really proud of myself for these things. It transcends the nutrition. That is getting into mindset. You are shifting the way you are embodying wellness because you're starting to be like, wait, like I'm actually proud of myself for this. I never thought that way before. Right. So it works on so many levels with this journal, and over, this is where I see women be like, this has really helped me. Some women, yes, it's not the greatest thing to do every single day. I hear you. I hear you. I'm doing the journal still after all these years because of how much it's helped me connect to myself. And like you said, 49, 6 months ago, it's different than it is now. So it's so important. It's not like you have to do the journal the rest of your life and you kind of integrate it. But I choose to do parts of the journal, not the whole journal. Right. But I choose to do that because I really love the connection and to understand my body as it's evolving in this beautiful hormonal world we're in right now. So.
Right. Well, and it also helped. I found the journal helped me see patterns because I struggle with restless leg. And when I started to see you, my restless leg was really, really bad. So it helped me to see patterns in that. It helped me to see sleep patterns. It helped me to see, it made me aware of don't drink after a certain hour. And if you do, what's your sleep pattern like? Because you talk about how much you sleep, but then also how did you feel when you woke up? Are you rested? things like that. And it made me accountable for exercise. I exercise every day, but I would put out my whole week in the journal. And it made me, honestly, it makes you accountable if you're like, I wrote it down. I
Totally.
said I was going to do it. And when you're like, how many steps are you walking? And I'm like, I committed that I was going to walk 2,000 more steps on average. And here I am. And then it becomes a habit because you see the change in your body and your overall wellness, and it makes you make different choices. Like I had soup the other day, and I heard you in the back of my mind saying, add more greens to your soup.
Good.
So I did. I ran downstairs. I grabbed some arugula. I grabbed some pumpkin seeds, and I threw them in my soup. And because I was like, you have taught me to think about easy ways to incorporate more of these things that my body needs. And now, just so everyone knows what I do. So I was always doing intermittent fasting. But now I have stopped eating breakfast. I used to eat oats of some form for breakfast every single day. I haven't had oats since December, and I haven't had breakfast since December either. And I am not hungry. And I used to be a vegetarian, and now I went back to eating fish. So my protein intake is way, way, way up. My consumption I make your detox smoothie every day for lunch. I'm going to make it after we're done with our call. And I have a healthy snack in the afternoon, and then I have a really healthy dinner. And I haven't eaten gluten. I haven't eaten dairy. I've cut out almost all grains, and I don't miss them. Every once in a while I crave pizza, and then I will eat pizza.
Eat pizza.
But when I do, I notice my stomach actually isn't so happy with that. So it has to be like, was that really worth it? And a lot of times I'll be like, you know what? I'm craving that, but let me find something else that will help me with that craving. And maybe that's making a gluten-free pasta with a lot of vegetables instead and a big salad. And that might help with that craving. And we just move on.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think what was so important, so many things you said that were so important too, it was finding the right balance for yourself, right? Because what you were eating before, it wasn't that it wasn't healthy necessarily. It was where you are in this point of life. And like so many women come to me, it's fascinating with the protein component. And it's not just protein. It's like their proteins, how many greens they're having, and their protein to complex carb ratio. It's not that you can't eat foods. It's just what is the right balance for yourself. And that's huge. And I think the other thing for you that I loved is like what you mentioned with all the steps, your meal, and you were also very, meticulous with your meal planning. You focused on making sure that you had the correct proteins for your body ready to go because you're busy and you're working full time. So it's really important, I think, too, that you did all of those pieces and planned ahead. And we do that in the journal. So in addition to planning ahead with your workouts, we also help coach clients to plan ahead with their meals. And we teach them all these little tools and tips and strategies. And that's when having beautiful recipes on hand, like all of these things, and protein, it really matters. And by the way, the EMBODY protein smoothie that you mentioned is in our cookbook, a brand new one.
Yes. Yeah. So let's talk about the cookbook because I think it's the first cookbook that's available to the public. Am I correct about that?
It is. Like we've had, from day one, we have recipes on our blog for sure. And it was really our personal journey. Like some of these recipes are like how we have healed our bodies. And also with Stephanie and I, we have little kids. So what we make with kids and so really started with that. And then the cookbook, it's called EMBODY Nourishment Cookbook. And I originally was just going to have it for our clients. That's what it's been for quite a few years now. We've had iterations of this just for clients. But the interesting thing is I started seeing out of all hundreds of recipes that we have, which ones actually produce results over and over and over. And not only results, the ones that clients, you get these anecdotal pieces. Christine, this is so easy to make. Oh, my whole family likes it. Yeah, like Christine, the smoothie has been life-changing. When I have heard, and I've heard it with so many of my 40s, 50s, 60-year-olds that it's it's almost like, well, why aren't we sharing this with everyone beyond our clients? And we got a lot of feedback when I'm sharing these on our social that, hey, Christine, I want this too. So that was one of the reasons why we said, you know what, let's do this. And the cool thing is we have so many more. So the thought is we would be doing iterations of the cookbook and kind of keep on evolving it, which is kind of exciting. But what I love is that it's really based on results. It's based on that feedback, and they're really functional ingredients. It's like each one has an intelligent component to it that, we were thinking like, oh, how can we enhance the nutritional profile in each and every recipe? But all the recipes, they're what you talked about, Jeanne. They're grain-free, they're gluten-free, they're dairy-free, free of all like refined sugars and seed oil, kind of all of these potential inflammatory triggers for not everybody, but many people. And when you're really looking at kind of how to increase or decrease, excuse me, the toxic load in your body, the foods you eat, a huge place to start. And the other big reason why we wanted to bring the book to the public is really for a good cause. The proceeds of the book are going to go to an organization that supported my sister, and not only my sister, but my family when she was going through her battle with her eating disorder. And it's ANAD. They're a wonderful organization. They do a lot of peer support with those who are struggling. And we raised thousands and thousands of dollars years ago for the organization. And I wanted to give back again and do something for this organization. But also, it's really about empowering women that they should have that nourishment every single day. And it's not about deprivation.
And it's not hard. Your recipes are easy.
Oh, they're easy.
It's amazing. They are and I've tried lots, I was vegan, so I've tried so many different recipes and I have thousands of ingredients that people can't even pronounce, but yet they're supposedly healthy for you to try to make vegan cooking work or vegetarian cooking work. And you were vegetarian for a long time too. And when I first got your recipe book, when I started working with you and I looked at the recipes, I was like, oh my goodness, this is so easy. And how can this be good? Like your parchment fish, I make it all the time.
So that's another like huge client favorite. And it's a very fancy recipe that we brought way down to kind of my level. And it's that was a huge piece. This isn't for those who are aspiring to be a chef. It's really for those everyday women and families and people who just want to start cleaning up the very simplistic ideas. And I do believe, and I've seen it over and over, with consistency, these can produce really beautiful results. Even if you're just like, I just want to take 3 days and just try to eat this way for 3 days. You'll see benefits after 3 days. It doesn't have to be this all or nothing approach. I hear I'm already getting requests to start working with me in September. And it's interesting. They're like, we want to be able to go out and do all these things in the summer. And I'm just like, wait, you can still do that. It's just a different approach to thinking about that. And the cookbook can help with that.
And you can still go out. I will remember, and we'll share this because we talk actually about drinking a lot with my guests on the podcast. And because I've had quite a few guests who are in their 40s and 50s who have stopped drinking. And so we talk about the process to do that because I think I feel the older I get, the more that comes up a lot. Alcohol and alcohol's role as you get older in your life. And it's so social. Mm-hmm. We live somewhere where it's very social. There are more liquor stores in my town than there are anything else. It is unbelievable in my small town. I think we have 7 liquor stores. I don't know why. But it shows you what the people in our town do. Restaurants and liquor stores are the most popular thing here, and gyms and exercise facilities. So there you go.
Yeah.
But I will say, I went to you and I loved wine. Everyone knows I love wine. I am a wine girl. I've always been a wine girl. I love my wine. And I went to you and you said to me, you guys, so you know what else you're going to have to change? And I was like, I know you're going to tell me I have to stop drinking wine. And I can cut back, but I don't want to do that. But I will tell everyone, Christine said to me, she goes, you can still drink. I just drink less, and I'd like you to drink vodka or tequila instead. And I was about to go to Mexico a couple weeks later on vacation. And I was like, okay,
I remember.
I was like, I want to change. Like, I am motivated. I don't like how I feel. I want to change. I can do this. And 3 weeks later, I was going to Mexico. And I went and so I stopped drinking wine. And I said, you know what? I'm going to drink wine 1 day a week. And it's going to be one glass of wine, and it's going to be very good. Like, don't
Yes.
waste it. Really
Very
good.
good.
Very good. But I'm going to learn to like these cleaner alcohols, and I'm going to try them with club soda, water them down, club soda lime. I love that. I went to Mexico 3 weeks later, came back. I was like, I love tequila. It's unbelievable. And now, and now I don't crave wine. I will have it on occasion in the right environment in small doses. I had a glass the other day and it didn't even taste that good. And it has been an amazing transformation because I still feel like I can go out and be social, and I can have one tequila with club soda, and that's great. And that's enough. As opposed to wine, it's like you're just drinking it like water, and it's more sugar, and then your body craves more sugar, and then you make bad food choices. And so I think I am proof that, people can stop drinking. I haven't, but you can modify and find a balance that's right for you. And it's been unbelievable.
And it's honestly, it's really important you say that, because I think that so many women they won't even entertain that piece to it. And I have so many women in their 40s and 50s that or in 60s, it just doesn't work for them the same. There's a lot of research that's coming out on this, and perimenopause and menopause. Dr. Aviva Romm, she's a guru of mine, Dr. Mary Claver. There's so many, Dr. Sarah Gottfried. Over and over again, you see these studies, but it's almost like I point women to these studies. I will give them, as I gave you, so you can do your own education, but you have to experience it. And that's where I'm always like, if you can just try, I always say try, then we start paring down based on where a client is, right? Everybody's different. But it's amazing. I don't think I've ever had a woman that has told me that they were upset that they tried to give it up. Every one of them have had results, but it's not about giving it up entirely, like you said. And you and I have very similar approaches. I do the same thing you do, but I'm very judicious about it now. And it's kind of, my friends know it. They make fun of me. So they're like, oh, Christine's nursing that clean martini like she always does. And I'm okay about that. I actually think it's funny, but I don't appreciate how my sleep is interrupted and how I feel the next day. So it was like a personal experience, as you experienced too, that I'm like, that my insulin reactions to alcohol and all of the downstream effects to it just isn't as worth it as it was in the past to me.
Right. It doesn't serve you as well as it did, and other things do. And so it's recognizing. And also, I think there's a stigma, like you talked about your friends. And there is a stigma, and it's recognizing that you're going to choose you and your body and your health and how you feel over what's socially acceptable or what people will say, and feeling confident in that and feeling strong to say, you know what? No, I'm going to choose not to drink. I'm going to choose not to eat pizza. I'm going to bring my own salad to the party or eat before I go if I don't feel like there will be a lot of food that I can eat or will feel good about eating, because I'm not going to eat penne alla vodka and Caesar salad and chicken nuggets and French fries. I just don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's a good point though. It transcends. Like when you start to get really confident in yourself and know yourself, and that's what I hope we teach clients as well. It's like this inner confidence. It's just like, I have no qualms bringing my own things to a part, to bring. I'll volunteer. I'm happy to bring salad. I do it all the time and pair it with a beautiful protein. All the time. I always empower clients to ask for what you want at restaurants. Like, it's these pieces that we kind of sometimes can get diminished over the years, so we aren't speaking up for ourselves. And we work with clients on that all the time, as you know.
Yeah, and that's a good one. All right. So before we go, because I've taken so much of your time, I always ask everyone if there's a book that they can recommend that has helped them on their personal wellness journey or their career journey. And so what book would you like to recommend?
I would say one of the most influential books for me on my mindset and meditation journey was from Dr. Joe Dispenza. I love all of his work, but Becoming Supernatural was one of the first books I picked up from him, maybe 8+ years ago or so. And I definitely have had meditation experience before him, but his philosophy on mindset and really rewiring how we think about ourselves to therefore create a different reality is really a different approach for me. So I actually have been I've been trained in multiple approaches with him over 40 to 60 hours. I've also been doing his various meditations for years and years now. And I highly recommend Dr. Joe. It's really influenced how I coach in my practice, how I live my life. But his meditations aren't these warm, fuzzy, relaxing necessarily forms of meditation. A lot of it is like really retraining your mind to think in a different way. And that has truly supported me. Even when I had an autoimmune condition, as I was going through grief, even just my everyday self, it's really helped me think differently. And a lot of clients, after they get into Dr. Joe, they're like, oh, wow, Chris, now I can see what Christine's saying now. So it was very impactful. But Dr. Joe also has a lot of meditations online. He has a lot of online trainings as well. And like I said, he has multiple books, but that's the one I like as kind of a first step.
I love it. I will link that as well as some of his other resources in the show notes so people can go and check him out. We're going to have you back because we could also have an entire episode where we talk about children and how do you get children to eat healthy and how do you prepare for children and your children. People need to follow you on Instagram because I cannot believe what your children eat. It's amazing. And that I feel is also where we impact change is when you're changing people of our age, but also we can pass that down and get the next generation to really think more and have better body images and better images of self and think about food in a different way. So I absolutely want to have you back to have an entire episode to talk about the next generation and how can we empower them on holistic living. I think it's something I feel very passionate about also. So.
Yes. And I would love food because nobody needs to be perfect. Like my kids eat pizza. I don't shield them from all these things. It's all about balance, but it's also what you were saying is that empowerment of them and giving them choices, kind of helping them learn their own way at this age. Like I wish I had that early on as well to this degree.
I agree. So I'm going to have you back and we're going to have a whole episode where we talk about children if you're up for it. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to link everything so people can follow you. You are a wealth of knowledge and so inspiring. So I encourage everyone, follow you on Instagram. You can learn so much. And if you're interested, sign up for your programs. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
I'll see you soon.
So good to see you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the House of JerMar podcast, where wellness starts within. We appreciate you being a part of our community and hope you felt inspired and motivated by our guest. If you enjoyed this episode, please write us a review and share it with friends. Building our reach on YouTube and Apple Podcasts will help us get closer to our mission to empower 1 million women to live all in. You can also follow us on Instagram at House of JerMar and sign up to be a part of our monthly inspiration newsletter through our website, houseofjermar.com. If you or someone you know would be a good guest on the show, please reach out to us at podcast@houseofjermar.com. This has been a House of JerMar production with your host, Jeanne Collins. Thank you for joining our house.